Now, over here, 10 Downing Street over there, and I think the closer I get to 10 Downing Street, the more I'm going to freak these people out. You know, as wandering historians talking about things, and then filming. Now, the last commander we have to talk about is Lord Kitchener. And Lord Kitchener, controversial figure in the British Army, in command of nearly as many things as Lord Roberts or Viscount Wolseley. One of the first notable moments in Kitchener's career, he actually went along with the French army during the Franco-Prussian War and got a stiff rebuke from the Duke of Cambridge about that. He also, at various times, worked for both Sir Garnet and Lord Roberts, with Sir Garnet in the Sudan.
There to embark for Khartoum. Kitchener knows the route and the wells. Move, gentlemen!
And Lord Roberts in the Boer War. Now, Kitchener was victorious at Omdurman. We talked about Charles Gordon going down to Sudan to fight the Mahdi, and Kitchener goes back in 1898 with a larger column, and if you're going to come back to Sudan, you better bring machine guns, because this time he brought a full army, and they had the Maxim gun, they had quick-firing artillery. It was a different army, and very methodically went to Khartoum, and they defeated the Mahdists, or the dervishes, as they called them. And Winston Churchill was actually at Omdurman, riding with the 21st Lancers. Now, after that, he becomes Kitchener of Khartoum, and the next year he becomes Chief of Staff to Lord Roberts. They go down to fix things in South Africa, and the Boer War is just, it's the management of the Boer War you could really go into in great depth. There's so much argument about the allocation of forces. Sir Garnet had said so many more troops were necessary, and the government did not heed his advice, even though he was Commander-in-Chief of the forces. Lord Roberts and Kitchener go down. He is Lord Roberts' Chief of Staff, essentially his second-in-command, and when Lord Roberts, after the initial victories, goes home for his honors, Kitchener is placed in charge in South Africa. Now, he's involved in India, where he first starts his rivalry and disagreements with Lord Curzon. He eventually becomes Consul General of Egypt. Quite a distinguished career, and has major conflicts with quite a few people in the First World War. Now, he was the one that insisted on having a landward campaign in Gallipoli. Now, he was killed in 1916 aboard HMS Hampshire when it struck a mine, likely laid by a German submarine, while sailing from Scapa Flow towards Arkhangelsk. And Kitchener was actually en route to a meeting with the Russians. So he's one of the highest-ranking British officers ever killed in war. And, you know, he is the face of the army eventually. We see him on that iconic poster. He has the iconic Victorian mustache, and he's even the caricature of the World War I army in popular culture now, with General Melchett, with Stephen Fry, is definitely Lord Kitchener.
Go tally-ho, yibbity-dap and zing-zang spillit. Looking forward to bullying off for the final chucker?
Definitely a military icon and a hotly debated figure in both military and political circles. Now, the last and probably equally controversial figure in Horse Guards Parade, which might count for our Foreign Office tour, but I'm going to count him in Horse Guards Parade, is Mountbatten, who was Admiral of the Fleet, and he ended up having a number of major commands in the Second World War. Now, he starts his wartime service as a captain and the commander of a destroyer flotilla, but ends up being a very important Allied commander in multiple theaters of the war. And eventually became Supreme Allied Commander in Southeast Asia. And Southeast Asia did not go well for the British. It was a long and difficult fight with terrible suffering. But he was eventually involved in the recapture of much of Southeast Asia from the Japanese. He was the last Viceroy of India before Indian and Pakistani independence. And he was Chief of Defense Staff from 1959 to 1965. And he was assassinated by the Irish Republican Army in 1979. Perfectly portrayed in all the seasons of The Crown. Really enjoyed both the performances there. Of course, Charles Dance, absolutely perfect.
Come you back, you British soldier. Come you back.
He is portrayed in his naval uniform there with his binoculars. Now, the only other notable thing about Mountbatten Green here is that 2 mortar shells actually landed in the green here, blowing out the windows of the Foreign Office behind it. The IRA fired these 140-pound mortar shells from Whitehall towards Number 10, and they landed in the Cabinet Office garden. There were 4 injured, but no one was killed due to bomb-resistant windows. But 2 of the shells overshot and landed right here in Mountbatten Green, and since 9/11, the green has been shut for security reasons. It's the corner of 2 very important entrances to 10 Downing Street and the Foreign Office, and I was hoping I could get in there to see if there was any damage to the statue, like there is on so many statues bombed during the Blitz. But he held a long and distinguished career in the 20th century, and now we're out of my wheelhouse. I know nothing about the 20th century. So, Mountbatten, interesting and controversial figure for many. There were a lot of eminent and accomplished and controversial figures here. I really and truly love Horse Guards Parade. It is a wonderful place. It seems so serene. It has St. James Park in the distance, and that is always just, it's such a serene place. And it has deep and meaningful historical memories from nearly every era in British military history. I just love seeing the acknowledgement of the death of the king, the war trophies, the statues to the great military leaders. There's so much here. Whether it be a statue or a memorial or a war trophy or something else entirely, what would you put here? If we could fill one of the other corners, what would you put on Horse Guards Parade? Let me know in the comments. That was the next on our tour, and now we're back into St. James's Park. So thank you all for joining me, and we will see you on the next one.